Hello, I'm Tabitha Mothoni and welcome to On the Farms of Africa. This is a show that brings you various tech farming methods, trending and emerging agribusinesses in Africa. This week, we explore the fungi world and mushrooms are the topic of the day. Later, we talk to Rosas Othiambo, an inspiring founder of Mushroom Kenya. Fungi culture is the process of producing food, medicine and other products by the cultivation of mushrooms and other fungi. Mushroom Kenya has partnered with various farmers in the country to inspire mushroom farming. Let's have a look at their story. Mushrooms are the edible, fleshy, fruiting bodies of certain fungi which may be gathered wild or grown under cultivation. With a variety of species available, cultivated mushrooms are usually grown in the dark and climate-controlled rooms.
At this farm, we grow two types. We grow the oyster, which looks like little plates, and we also grow these button mushrooms here. Mushrooms, they are edible and they are non-edible. Most edible mushrooms grow in areas where there is high phosphorus and high nitrogen. Inedible ones thrive where there is sulfur. The trouble is they look almost similar. In Kenya, people consume the yellow oyster, the white oyster, the pink oyster. They also consume the African boletus. It's a type of mushroom found in the forest, and they also consume this button mushroom. This is the Agaricus bisporus subspecies of mushrooms. Those are the ones which are edible and that are commercially viable to grow.
Joseph Morethi, a farmer and partner with Mushroom Kenya based in Ngong, has been long into this practice, acquiring vast knowledge from training and experience.
I've practiced mushroom farming from the year 2004. There's a small 7-year break because of lack of water. And 1.5 years ago, I resumed growing mushrooms. We get our water from collecting rainwater. We've collected from these gutters, and we also get our water from the city council.
Mushrooms take about 2.5 months to mature, with a number of factors put into play.
From the day of planting to the day of maturity, they take between 40 and 50 days. That depends on the nutrients again in the soil, so it's usually between 40 and 50 days.
A growing medium for mushroom production, which is called substrate, is prepared from various forms.
This is the substrate. It's wheat straw, which has been added some fertilizers and some organic elements. And this is mainly what the mushrooms will use when they're growing. So we prepare this for a period of 2 weeks. And after we prepare it for a period of 2 weeks, it's able to break down. And what we're doing today is we are turning over to allow for decomposition of the wheat straw, and that decomposition allows the mushroom to spread its roots so that it's able to get the nutrients it needs to grow. With me here is Ken. We work together, and what we're doing right now is that we are turning the grass. This is to allow air to enter inside the growing medium. It's called substrate, and this growing medium is what the mushroom uses. And the air that is allowed inside allows all the fertilizer and all the other elements to mix properly and be aerated and oxygenated. You notice it has a white substance on top of it, and it is steaming. That means it is breaking down the biological matter to create the food that is required for the mushrooms. This is wheat straw that was gotten from harvested wheat. The straw that remains is called wheat straw, and it's packed in bales. The first stage is opening up those bales and watering them. After watering them, you wait for 3 days, and then you add manure, horse manure, ostrich manure if you have ostrich manure, organic manure or chicken manure. Then you turn it the way I'm turning right now. And when you turn it, you continue watering for another 3 to 4 days. After you turn it, you wait another 3 days, and that makes more than 1.5 weeks of waiting. After that, you get to the stage where you add fertilizer. We're talking about urea, We're talking about calcium ammonium nitrate. We're talking about monophosphates and effective microorganisms, EMI. These elements are the primary food sources, and they're added onto the substrate to increase the nutritive value for the mushrooms, because this is an environment which is man-made. They're not being grown naturally, and so you have to give them everything that they get in their natural environment for them to grow. After that, you wait another week so that the grass continues to decompose, and you keep turning it after every 3 days until you arrive at a stage where you need to put what we call lime. Now, the white coloring that you see here, for this particular grass, it has been added lime. And right now, as it stands here, it is now 2 weeks old and 2 days. And after we add lime, we wait for another 3 days and then we turn. After turning, we look at and measure whether it still has steam. This steam means it still has ammonia, which means it's still breaking down. You cannot plant it right now. You cannot put the seed of the mushrooms in this grass as it presently is, because the ammonia will kill it. So you wait another week and you keep turning after every 3 days so that this entire decomposition process can be complete. That makes almost 3.5 weeks of preparing and decomposing this compost. It's called substrate, but it's also called compost. Between 3.5 weeks and 4 weeks, it is now ready for planting. This particular type of plastic bags, they keep in the moisture, because if you put it in any other medium, it dries out and mushrooms never do well in a place which is dried out. So to handle the moisture, you put them in these plastic bags. These are packaged in industrial grade bags, and they are for planting medium, much the same way as trees in a nursery and flowers in a nursery are put in the plastic bags. So these are the plastic bags that are used for planting the button mushrooms. It is standard industrial practice, and it is one of the best in maintaining the moisture to keep this substrate from drying out. When this structure has broken down enough, after between 3.5 and 4 weeks, you place an average of almost 4 kilograms into this plastic bag. Make sure it is dry, it is cold, it's not too warm. And this is how it has already been put in a plastic bag. Now when it is here, at this stage here, it shall be put the spawn, which is the seed. And once it has been planted, that seed, it shall stay open like this in a house where it will be growing for 2 weeks.
After the substrate has been prepared, planting takes place inside the house, which can be of various materials, but Joseph prefers the mud house.
This structure is where we put the substrate which has already been planted in bags, and it's made out of mud. The structure can be made out of stone, iron sheets, bricks, other building material. Its purpose is to prevent the substrate from being contaminated as it grows, protecting it from the elements, temperature fluctuations. In this particular location, we chose to build soil or earthen houses because of temperature modulation. Button mushrooms require temperature to be modulated. It needs to be very even at an optimum of between 17 and 20 degrees centigrade and not fluctuating at all. So at night, when it's very cold outside, below 11 degrees, it's still warm inside. During the day when temperatures go to almost 30 degrees, it's still 20 degrees. The temperature fluctuation is at a minimal. So earthen houses are the best. And the primary purpose of putting them in earthen houses, another reason, is because mushrooms grow in the soil. It's only the best option for them to be put in a similar environment.
Inside, the light is minimal. This is because mushrooms grow well under dark conditions.
This is the inside of the house. As you can see, it is relatively dark. It has regulated temperatures, and this is substrate which has already been planted for a week now. When it's brought into the house from the field, it's supposed to stay another 3 weeks, and 5 days. But between those 3 weeks and 5 days, for the first 2 weeks, it is in this stage where it has already been planted, the seed. So this is the seed, as you can see. It is made from wheat or barley or oats, and this has been pre-spawned with the mushroom mycelia, and it is allowed to grow on this seed. There's a lot of it, and when it is being planted, it is planted in this form, and that's why it's put into this substrate. The seeds are measured in liters. A package of literage of seed corresponds to the amount of mycelium that has been used to grow that seed. So if you say a package of 10 liters, it means it is 10 liters in volume, but that has been encased in the grain with which the seed covers itself in. Its cost is anywhere between 9,000 and 12,000 Kenya shillings for 15 liters. It comes in packages of 15 liters and 30 liters. And that is enough for 100 bales of wheat straw or barley straw, 90 kilograms of sugarcane bagasse, and all other organic matter that is useful for mushrooms. Once you've planted that spawn, because spawn is mycelium, that is the seed of the mushroom, which has encased grain. It's called spawn. We get our seeds from South Africa, from Germany, from the US, and from local universities. You can get them locally. Capacity. The people who are growing mushrooms are more than the capacity being produced locally. To meet the demand for this spawn, it's called spawn, you have to go and get it from outside. At the time that you go locally and you're told there's not enough. But all the seed is the same. It's mainly put in spawned on barley or oats or rice grain. That is because initially these grains have all the nutrients for the spawn to grow, which is similar to the nutrients found in the substrate that we prepared. That's why they're the very best. On the day of planting, you mix it evenly with your substrate. Once you mix it evenly along this bag, then you're able to spread it out on the bag, and you let it remain in the bag for 2 weeks. We had said before that it's supposed to be here for 3 weeks and 5 days to 3 weeks to 4 weeks. But for the first 2 weeks, you allow it to stay this way so that it starts spreading and developing root systems in the substrate. That is how now you start growing the mushroom itself. After those 2 weeks, it shall require to be put a layer of soil on top. Okay, that's it. That means it shall be put what you call a casing layer. Casing is using organic soil or soil that you've prepared that has as few microbes as possible. By microbes, we mean other life forms that will compete with the growing mycelium for the mushrooms that will overtake or destroy the mushrooms. So you have to sterilize the soil, you have to pasteurize it to kill off microorganisms, bacterial diseases, other microbes that are within the soil, and other competing species of mushrooms, because you want your mushrooms to grow healthily. So they have to have as little competition as possible. So this is casing soil with as little iron content as possible. Why iron content? The iron content has to be little because that iron binds to the oxygen and to nitrogen and sulfur, which are key elements for the growing of mushrooms. So when that iron binds to them, it forms iron oxides, and these oxides affect the growth of those mushrooms. So they do not grow very well. So red soils which are really red are not appropriate for casing. You need soils which have less iron and more organic matter. So this is black soil. It has been pasteurized for 90 minutes at a temperature of 90 degrees and above. And once you pasteurize it or you dry bake it at 90 degrees for 30 minutes, that kills off all the microorganisms. Then you let it cool down. Once it has cooled down, you remove all grasses and all other biological matter that is not related to the soil, and now it is ready for casing. Once it has cooled, then you bring it to your bag, which you've opened up, which has been in the house for those 2 weeks, 14 days. And as you can see, I'm now laying it on to this substrate which already has mycelium growing in it. So I spread it in such a way that it forms an even layer on the substrate. It has already reached its final stage. It shall now be covered carefully. The reason for covering is to stop the soil from being contaminated by microbes in the air. And once it has been covered like this, it will also retain the moisture within the bag and the soil. And this allows the mycelium, which has started spreading here, to form the fruiting bodies. Those are the mushroom pinheads. They form at this soil surface level because the substrate is where the roots are. And this casing soil gives that root structure holding ground to start forming pins. Another reason is that the nutrients that are found in the soil, especially trace elements like a little bit silicon, boron, nickel, cadmium, and magnesium. These trace elements are what the fruiting body of the mushroom, the root structure, uses to build pinheads or the fruit section of the mushroom. So it shall remain like this for another 10 days to 14 days. That forms the complete growing cycle of 3.5 weeks to 4 weeks. And after 3.5 weeks to 4 weeks, you shall start noticing the bug forming small white pinheads, and after it forms, it is unfolded like this once more. You'll wait for 1 or 2 days where you shall start seeing pinheads.
Harvesting takes place after the 50 days and proper packaging is done.
What you're seeing is the final product of the pins that we had described earlier and which you already saw, having developed and turned into a fruit. This is the final part of the process of growing these mushrooms. This is the fruit which developed from the casing layer, the soil which we had put on earlier. It forms this way because it's about to start developing the seed section. Underneath over here you can see when it starts growing old, this will open up. And once it opens up, it forms gills which produce the seed. So inside here there is the seed for the mushrooms. So this one has been harvested, and when we harvest, we usually use a brush to brush off the soil. We remove the part which has soil and set it aside, and this is the part that has been packed onto this. As you can see, the shape of this is buttons. That's why it's called the button mushrooms. Mushrooms are best packaged inside a plastic container. It's called a pannet, and they're covered with a polythene sheeting, food grade, and it is to conserve the moisture. They should be packaged in this way. As perishables, it extends the shelf life, but also maintains the moisture and the texture of the crop while you're taking it to the market. This weighing scale is used to measure packaging. The packaging is usually 250 grams. So when you place it here, you'll find that it has reached to 250 grams here. But it goes beyond by 7 or 8 grams to account for the weight of the pannet. So this is a scale, a standard commercial scale, and it's best used for this packaging. They can also be packaged in 500 grams or 1 kilogram. But you do not go beyond that because you tend to crush the delicate button structure of that mushroom. So 250 grams is best as a package. A pannet's basic price is from 150 shillings to 250 shillings, depending on the market fluidity on that day. That is the demand and supply constraints. So it's between 150 shillings and 250 shillings.
Besides the inevitable challenges, Moredi has highly benefited from the mushroom farming business with an available market for his produce.
We sell locally to people who love eating mushrooms, individuals. We also have hotels and eateries around Nairobi which consume this kind of mushrooms. One of the biggest challenges is contamination by flies and by competing mushrooms. We have poisonous mushrooms which grow which use the same foodstuffs that these mushrooms grow. So we have to create organic control mechanisms to deal with the competing mushrooms. That way, this mushroom is able to grow. Another challenge is bacteria, and the other one, of course, is the issue of temperature. Mushrooms are agilophytes, that is to say they love cool, dark temperatures. So maintaining low light conditions and maintaining hygiene helps alleviate some of the challenges of growing these mushrooms here. The structure has been built in such a way the bottom area is recessed. That helps maintain the temperature of the growing area, especially the floor. The floor should always be cool, it should always be moist or damp, and the structure, like made of soil, regulates the temperatures, keep reducing temperature fluctuations and oscillations to keep them at a premium between 15 and 17 degrees centigrade. I've benefited from learning how to grow, especially the traditional oyster mushroom, that is the yellow oyster and the pink oyster, learning how to develop its spawn. And I've also learned about the market forces. And of course, when you sell, you're able to sustain your family and pay school fees and just pay bills, basically. This is Kuno mushrooms. We are also into the business of researching about growing commercially traditional indigenous African mushrooms which have been forgotten. These species of mushrooms that we're growing here come from other countries, but we also want to research on growing our own African traditional mushrooms. This is their homeland, and we hope to be able to research and collaborate with our learning institutions, universities, and other groups in other forums. So anybody who's interested in learning about growing traditional mushrooms, we are doing research on them currently, and we want to pray that we shall be able to have a good outcome from that research. Person who wants to venture into mushroom farming should not fear. There is a market, there is training if they do not know, and it's not a difficult process. It is farming like any other crop. It has its challenges and it has its advantages, and every challenge that you find growing mushrooms has already people who are dealing with that challenge. So we have support groups. One of them is Mushrooms Kenya on Facebook. There's the Mushroom Growers Association of Kenya. These are forums of people who are growing mushrooms, and they provide invaluable support, advice, growing methods, challenges, even with marketing. So there's a support structure around the mushroom growing community that will be able to support anybody coming up with the idea of wanting to venture into mushroom growing.
With an array of hope in him for a highly rewarding business in future, mushroom farming is a field that, well tapped into, could be a money-making investment in the nation and Africa as a whole. Next, we talk to Rusos Othiambo, a student and founder of Mushroom Kenya. But first, here is a look at his profile. Rusos Demis Othiambo is an IT student at Mount Kenya University, an upcoming motivational speaker in personal development and humanity, and also an entrepreneur. He has a strong passion for farming and a role model to the youth in society, which has seen him put up Mushroom Kenya, an organization that trains and mentors farmers in the country, and which is also part of a bigger farm plan for agritourism aimed at producing mushrooms and helping other farmers thrive in the venture. His passion to transform the society by giving hope has seen him start Volunteers for the Elderly in Need, also known as VAIN, an organization that helps the elderly in need, formulating programs geared towards addressing different challenges that the elderly face. Rusos is a fun-loving person who is passionate about traveling and reading. Rusos Othiambo, nice to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you.
So you are a student and at the same time working with Mushroom Kenya as the founder. How do you balance all of this?
Well, it's not really been easy balancing schoolwork and business, that is entrepreneurship. But the first thing I had to do was to defer my studies so that I don't attend classes on a physical basis. So what I do is virtual learning, whereby you don't really need to go to class to so I do it online. So that gives me time to go to the office in the morning, do my business activities, and then I do classes at a stipulated time that I've set for studies.
All right.
Yes.
And when was Mushroom Kenya founded, and what was its sole purpose?
Well, Mushroom Kenya was founded in 2015, and this is an idea that I got while working with another organization that deal with agricultural research. So we did some field work, and what this organization does is they deal with the farmers, and then the records from the farmers are normally brought to the headquarters in Nairobi. So I would really help in feeding the data, doing some reports, and that is when I used to get to know so many kinds of farming, that what farmers are really dealing with. Some are doing redworm, some are doing mushrooms, some are doing other things that are not really common. So that is when I now got interested in mushroom farming. Did some little research about it, a trial, and then now I said this is a good business to start. So that is how it came about.
Great. And what did you need to start up this business?
Well, to start up this business, first I needed information, because I needed to know like what is required, where can I get them, and of course capital is there.
Yes.
And you also know which market will you be supplying, and what is the market information that is outside there. Yes.
And so far, what experience have you garnered over the years since 2015, and how has the experience been like, and how have you yourself benefited?
Well, I've really gathered a lot of experiences, both good and bad. Every business has the good side and the bad side. But I would say in general it has been a good experience for me, because first I've been able to be getting some income for upkeep, school fees, and all that stuff. And then the second thing is I've also come to have a network of people who share the same dream. I would say, let's say farmers, and the network keeps on growing. So that's also a good experience that I've been getting with this kind of work that I'm doing. And then maybe on the bad side of of this, sometimes challenges are also part of this. So some of the challenges we've been receiving is maybe in terms of maybe production. Sometimes you find you get challenges at the farm, let's say pests and diseases. Sometimes the market, you cannot, sometimes you cannot supply with the market, because you get a lot of inquiries than you can supply. That's a challenge, and at some point I also lost a farm, so it's also been a challenge. Yes.
And so far, what's your reach within the country?
Well, I would say now I operate in so many areas in the country. From Nairobi being the stronghold, Nakuru is another part, Mombasa, I was just there the last week, just trying to work out something in this line. And so we are working with farmers across the country, although some areas you will realize the farmers are not even there.
How have you interacted with the farmers? What have you taught them?
Our interaction with the farmers is based on a mentorship program, because what we believe is if you come to the farm and learn about mushroom production, let's say the training, for 1 day or 2 days, that is not really enough, because let's say if you find that we are harvesting today, or for the 2 days you will be in the farm, we will tell you that it started like this, came to this stage, and now we are here. So the other 2 stages are like, they are still theory. What you are seeing is how to harvest. And so sometimes these things are also easier said than done. We tell you, we do this, it feels very easy. But when you get to the farm, you realize that it's not that easy as in conversation. So that is why it is good to have a mentor, somebody who has done this, who will guide you from day one, let's say giving you a quote, and then they guide you all the way to maybe your first production cycle.
Your training goes for, since day one up to when the mushrooms mature. How do you go about that?
So majorly what has been happening, we've been doing a day training at the farm. You come in the morning and leave in the evening. So in the process, we go through the whole production process. But we realized that is not really enough. So what we do is we connect with other farmers in so many areas, majorly around Kenya. And so once we have a database of mushroom farmers, and people are also inquiring. So there are new farmers who want, new people who want to join the farming, and there are those who are doing the farming. So what we do is, if these people, once these people have been trained, we link them to mentors. So the mentors should be the farmers in their areas, and if not in their area, in the surroundings.
Okay.
So these are the people who will now be taking them through the whole production cycle.
Okay, that is great. Okay, you have the mentors coaching the farmers.
Yes, the mentees.
Yes. How do you benefit financially from all of this?
This is a project that has undergone a lot of piloting. Like the first time we were making it free. Then you realize if you connect a new farmer, a mentee in this case, to a mentor, maybe the mentor makes a lot of excuses. You know, I'm at work, I can't find time. So and then we made some adjustment, like now, you know, the mentee pays some premium subscription that there are different packages. There's a package that will just offer you maybe one visit every 2 weeks or one visit every week. There's a package that will offer you like maybe close to daily visits. So you choose what is flexible for you. So this is what we also share with the mentor. So the mentor feel motivated that in helping this person, I will be spending my time, but I'll also be earning something. So in turn, they become more committed to helping the mentees, and the mentee is also getting good services. So that is how we really benefit from that.
Okay.
Yes.
Besides the training, what do I need to start mushroom farming?
To get started in mushroom farming, training, of course, information is the first thing you look at. You really need to know, like, how will you go about it, and then once you have the training, mushroom is it's a plant and a fungi kingdom, but they behave so funny. They don't really behave like plants in that. For example, they don't need sunlight to make their own food. So that means they can be grown in a house. So once you have the training, you look for now the requirements you need to get started in mushroom production. So one is a house. There's a reason we are using a house. One is because it doesn't use sunlight, so that is one reason it can be in a house. Two, it will be easy to regulate the conditions that it requires inside the house. Like it requires low humidity, darkness at some point, hygiene. So all these things are very easy to maintain in a house. So apart from training, you need a house. And once you have a house, mushroom, since it doesn't use sunlight to make its own food, so where will it get the food? It will get it from a soil, a special soil for this case. So in our own terms, we normally call the soil substrate. So based on different types of mushroom, they have different types of substrate. In Kenya, we have two major mushrooms that are consumed or grown, button and oyster. So for oyster, you use substrate are also many, but one of the best is like wheat straw, rice straw, sugarcane baggies, coffee husks. Those ones are the ones that are really recommended because of high nitrogen content. And the substrate should also have some qualities to be used. So for example, for oyster, you need to get just the straws. If it is wheat straw, rice straw, coffee husk, then you just sterilize and plant. But for button, it has to be decomposed, whereby some other things are added so that the mushroom get all the nutrients from the substrate. So apart from training house, you get a substrate, then you look for the seeds. In our own terms, we say spawns. Yes. And then once you have the seeds, you look for the market, because you will have a house, you will have the soil, you will have planted. Now you need market once you harvest. All
right. And so far, what markets do you have, or rather, what available markets are there for mushroom farmers?
Well, it's a broad thing. There is so many target groups that really consume mushrooms, so they become the target market, or fish ponds in this case. We normally say you have to know where you get the people you want. So The major group is the restaurants, and you really need to know which kind of restaurants are these, because not all restaurants will be taking mushrooms. So in a nutshell, maybe the Japanese, the Chinese, Italians, Mexican, those are some of the major target restaurants. So apart from restaurants, we have groceries, especially in Nairobi there are so many. These groceries stock these things. And then 3 is we have farmer markets, especially the organic farmer markets. So these farmer markets, they normally try to bring organic products into one place. So that is one place that you can also tap and sell the mushroom. For example, if you are in Nairobi, there is an organic market in Marula and Karen. They have also days they showcase in Two Rivers. So those are some areas you can also sell. Apart from groceries or farmer markets, you will also have people who are fully organic, vegetarians in this case. So the vegetarians will really consume this. And another target is the old people and the children. They will always be recommended, you know, you have to take this maybe at the clinic or something like that.
And also hospitals?
Yeah, hospital not that much, because mostly what they do is they recommend the clients, maybe they give you a diet or something. You need to take a lot of proteins, so they give recommendations. Yeah, but they also buy. Yes.
You mentioned land as a challenge and also the market. What other challenges have you faced?
For myself as an individual, the first challenge was I would say information. It was really hard to get the information, so that was the first challenge. But I did a lot of research and, you know, got some information. The second challenge was capital.
Definitely.
Yes. In starting this, maybe you might even have a small space where you want to get started. You know, you are not starting big. But now you don't even have, you know, the capital to transform the whole idea. So capital has also been a challenge. And then I got some capital, got some land, and started off. And then the unfortunate happened, the farm was flooded. So back to ground zero again. But now I'm working on building it again. The reviving the farm is in process. Yes.
Okay, how much did you start with, and where did you get the money from?
Well, I didn't start with much. You know, most times people say you have to have, like, you know, a lot of money to get started in this. For me, I didn't have that kind of money because I'm in school at the same time. And you can imagine the life of a student, you have to balance a lot of things. So for me, the total cost for my startup costed 40,000. So that was everything: the house, the seeds, some training, you know, all that. So
40,000.
40,000.
Wow.
And in this case, I started with what was easy to start, that is oyster. No more expenses like other types of mushrooms. So that is what I started with.
Okay, and did you borrow this money, or where did you get it from?
Well, I didn't borrow this money. I worked for this money.
Wow.
So I would really give a lot of credit to the agricultural NGO that I have been working with. It's called CABI, Center for Agricultural and Biosciences International. So we would go to the field, do some work, and I would save some money, and you know, that is what now I saved and used to start the project.
All right, great. And what growth opportunities do we see for you and also for Mushroom Kenya?
Well, I see there are so many opportunities for growth, especially in the future. There are so much good plans of, you know, progress. Like one is, in my view, because now I'm now the dream carrier. I'm the one who, like, you know, I can see in 5 years.
Vision.
Yes, the vision. So I'm seeing there's a lot of work that is yet to be done. According to me, maybe it's 20% that has been done. I'm planning to have roll more other services than we have now, like you know, roll the mentorship program to be a nationwide thing. Now it's been operating around Nairobi, because that is where it's also easy to foresee what these people are doing. So that is one thing that can also spread to other parts of the country. And then two, we've also realized that new mushroom farmers who are coming into the industry, they face a lot of challenges of like getting land, especially in Nairobi. If you are to getting a house to do this is close to impossible, because nobody will allow you to do farming in their house. And two, getting a space, let's say a yard where you can be doing this thing, is very expensive. You will be told, even if you get, let's say 10,000 per month, but these people tell you you have to pay for the whole year or 2 years, so that it becomes expensive. So that has been a challenge of most farmers. So what we will do in future is we maybe have some land, even if it's rented in, and we build these mushroom houses, and then we rent it to the interested parties in production cycle. So if the production cycle is 3 months, we give it to you for 3 months, just the same way the rental houses we live in are done. And so that is another program that maybe in future will come. And value addition of mushroom has also not been exhausted. What is done now is only the drying, of which very few people are drying now. So we will also work on value addition, procedures, from drying to maybe processing, packaging. That will come with time. And maybe also having a research center just based on this, because there are so many types of mushrooms that we don't know data about, so we need to know more about those ones. So it will be like a one-stop farm for mushroom things.
Great. And what advice would you give to anyone who wants to venture into mushroom farming?
Okay. Anyone who wants to venture into mushroom should take into consideration, one, getting the information. That is very, very key. Two, once you get all this information, it's also good to, now when you're getting the requirements you need to get started, you need to go for quality. For example, you realize somebody harvests for 2 months and another one harvests for 1 month. It's because of maybe the quality of the seeds or things like that. And then you should also look for market in good time. We're not saying there's no market. There is plenty of market for this case, but mushroom is something that is perishable.
Very
and yes, and then there is also a lot of pressure, because you will start harvesting today, you harvest tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, for 1 month or 2 months. So if you don't get rid of these ones, then where will you take the other ones? So it also gives you some pressure. So you really need to work on this market before, because sometimes you